Good morning to you. We've been following the breaking news all morning long on the tense situation at the Russia-Ukraine border, with fears of an invasion growing by the day. NATO is sending ships and fighter jets to Eastern Europe. The Biden administration is ordering embassy families and all U.S. citizens out of Ukraine. The UK actually with a similar approach here, getting its citizens out as well. Joining us to talk about all of this is Leland Vittert, host of Unbalanced right here on NewsNation. I know, Leland, you spent about a month in eastern Ukraine as Russia's militia took over parts of the country in 2014. So from your perspective, and I think a lot of Americans need clarity and perspective right now, how serious is this situation on a scale of 1 to 5?
A 5. The only thing that would be more serious is that the Russians actually start rolling across the border. And there's a lot of reporting that already Russian special forces and intelligence operators are in eastern Ukraine laying the groundwork for this invasion. What's most telling is what you started with, Adrienne, very smartly, which is that the United States and the United Kingdom are starting to get their citizens out and starting to get embassy personnel and embassy families out. What that tells you is that they realize that if this turns into a real war quickly, they don't have confidence in the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian military's ability to keep the Russians at bay and outside of Kiev for more than about 24 or 48 hours. You could be in a situation where you could go to bed with there having not been an invasion, and by the next evening, you could have the Russian soldiers very, very close to the Ukrainian capital, which is why you're seeing all of these preemptive evacuations.
Well, and I also thought and maybe this was wrong to think this way, but I'm going to go there. The president can't afford another failure in terms of pulling out Americans after what happened in Afghanistan.
Exactly. And people have been making that comparison, right? That the president said, I'm not going to leave any Americans behind in Afghanistan. I'm going to keep U.S. troops there until every American is out. And that didn't happen. You're not seeing those same kind of proclamations, though, this time around. So they kind of learned their lesson, right? And there's been a number of different sort of senior administration officials, if you will, who've put out on background, look, Americans are sort of on their own, and that if there is a real conflict, a real war between Russia and Ukraine, the United States may not be able to get every American out, because even flying C-17s in and out of Afghanistan at the rate that they were trying to get people out of Afghanistan, that's very different than trying to fly them in and out of Kiev, for example, when you have Russian soldiers and Russian combat aircraft overhead. It's a very different world. And the Biden administration's been clear, whether you agree with them or not, that they're not willing to commit U.S. troops to protect Ukraine. And that certainly is a signal to the Russians of exactly how much they view, how much the American administration views how far they're willing to go.
Do you think that America has the power to stop Russia from going into Ukraine with sanctions or anything else?
Well, militarily, sure, we have the power to stop them from coming in. This is more of a test of wills, right? In terms of who is willing to signal to the world that they're willing to pay a higher price. Is Vladimir Putin willing to become more of the pariah that he already is? He appears to be willing to do that. And is he willing to endure the economic costs that are going to be extracted on the Russians because of that? John McCain famously said, Russia is a country masquerading as a gas station, and the gas station they can still sell to China. So Vladimir Putin knows what he wants to do. This is going to make him stronger at home. It's going to make him more feared around the world. It's going to allow him to increase his long-term goal and start to fulfill his long-term goal of putting the Soviet Union back together again. President Biden largely views this as sort of an embarrassment that's going to be difficult to deal with the allies. But there's very, very little appetite right now in the United States to go to war over Ukraine. President Biden hasn't sold that. So if you're Vladimir Putin, you don't really see a lot of strength being projected by the United States towards you.
Yeah, well, globally, I think that is also the case. Is why put so much at stake for the Ukrainian government at this time? But again, you'll talk more about it, I know, on your show tonight, especially how it could impact global oil prices, because I know a lot of Americans care about that. You can watch On Balance with Leland Vittert right here on NewsNation every weeknight at 7, 6 Central. Our thanks to Leland again. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.